So, is there a karmic wheel? Well, yes and no, because our perceptions that are imbalanced are not the actual truth. There are misperceptions about reality. You've probably heard of the term from the Eastern mysticism, karma. And today I'd like to talk about karma and the idea, is there a cosmic boomerang? Is there some sort of a feedback to us about our behaviors and our actions, a causality, a cause and effect relationship? So if you have something to write with and write on, it would be great. But every time you perceive somebody else in a way that you put them up on a pedestal and minimize yourself relative to them by the law of contrast, you exaggerate them, you minimize you, and you feel ashamed or less than compared to something you admire that you think is more than, that diminished self is stored in your subconscious mind because you're actually creating a valency, a judgment on yourself and negating yourself. You're putting a negative charge on it and you're putting a positive charge on them. So you're assuming that they caused you more pleasure than pain in the sense of you're admiring them, but at the same time you're comparing yourself to them, and so you're causing yourself more pain than pleasure and minimizing yourself. You can also see somebody and look down on them and put them in the pit, not on the pedestal. And now you are exaggerating their negatives, and now you puff yourself up and exaggerate your positives. And you think they're causing you your pain, and you think that they're the cause of your pain, and you think that you're now the cause of your pleasure. So anytime you exaggerate somebody else and minimize yourself, or minimize somebody else and exaggerate yourself, you have an imbalance. And whenever you are too humble to admit what you see in these people you admire inside yourself, you have a deflected part. And whenever you're too proud to admit what you see in them inside you, you have a deflected part. So every time you judge somebody, you have deflected parts. You have deflective awareness. That means you're conscious of the positives and unconscious of the negatives in them, and conscious of the negatives and unconscious of the positives in you. Or conscious of the negatives in them and unconscious of the positives in them, and conscious of the positives and unconscious of the negatives in you. So anytime you judge, you split your full consciousness, mindfulness, into conscious and unconscious halves. You also disown part of what you see, and therefore you have deflective awareness. When you have deflective awareness and those disowned parts, those are emptiness. That's why whenever you judge somebody, you have an emptiness inside. Now, when all of a sudden you see that whatever you perceive in them, you have in you, and you're not putting them up and minimizing you, but leveling the playing field and have reflective awareness where the seer, you, the seeing, the process, and the seen, them, are the same. This reflective awareness has a leveled playing field, and you have equanimity within yourself, you're balanced in yourself, and you have equity between you and them, they're equal, and there's an equilibrium. And now you don't have an emptiness, you don't have a void there, you have fulfillment. So when you actually have a balanced orientation, have reflective awareness, and get to love that part of them and get to love the part of you, and are not exaggerating or minimizing you, which is inauthenticity, or exaggerating, minimizing them, which is inauthentic, you now have a balanced orientation. This balanced and loving orientation, reflective awareness, is the dharma path in the Eastern mysticism. And every time we judge is the karmic wheel, because anything we infatuate with or resent, we keep dealing with. You probably tried to sleep at night somewhere in your life and you had something that was really, really resentful on your mind, that you really resented, somebody you resented, and you really put them down and thought, oh, I would never do that. And you're too proud to admit it. And then you can't sleep because it's regurgitating in your brain. It's intrusive thoughts. And you're basically constantly going through their mind and has difficulty sleeping. And if you infatuate with somebody and minimize yourself, the same thing can occur. Anytime you polarize the mind and exaggerate or minimize others, and then yourself, minimize and exaggerate yourself, you have that deflective awareness. It's stored in the subconscious mind. It becomes intrusive thoughts or brain noise, static in the receiving system. And when you do, it just keeps reverberating. It's stored in the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind stores all lopsided perceptions until you bring them into balance. And when they go into balance, you have a transcendent state, a superconscious mind. And you have love and appreciation and inspiration and enthusiasm and certainty and presence. You're not wavering with uncertainties, you're present. So that's the dharmic path in the Eastern Buddhist tradition. And the karmic wheel is all of those judgments. So anytime you judge others or judge yourself and exaggerate or minimize them or you automatically have this idea of a false causality. Because when you exaggerate yourself, you'll feel proud and you assume that you did something more positive than negative. When you're ashamed, you think you did more negative than positive to someone. When you admire and infatuate with them, you think they did more positive, negative to somebody, you. And when you resent somebody, you think that they did more negative than positives to you. Anytime you have a judgment and you have an imbalanced ratio of perceptions and you have a polarization and you have a valency, as they call it in chemistry, and it's charged positively or negatively, and you're judging and you think you're too good or too bad relative to somebody else, or they're too bad or too good relative to you, and deflective awareness, that's the so-called karmic wheel. And that does run your life. It just keeps regurgitating in the brain until you finally bring it back to balance. The brain stores, the amygdala inside the brain, the subcortical part of the brain, assigns the valency, assigns the judgment. The hippocampus then stores that in the memory process, and we sit there and they're stored until we bring it to balance. That's why I tell people that come to the breakthrough experience, the seminar I do on how to dissolve that and teach them the breakthrough, the Demartini method. The Demartini method is a series of specific questions on how to dissolve all those judgments and to liberate yourself from all those regurgitating, that brain noise and the noise in the brain that's basically holding you back and distracting you. Because anything that you infatuate with or resent is an impulse or an instinct that distracts you from being present and being certain in life and being empowered in life. So, is there a karmic wheel? Well, yes and no, because our perceptions that are imbalanced are not the actual truth. There are misperceptions about reality. You've met people before where you were infatuated with them and you thought, wow, you've got them up on a pedestal. And then a day, a week, a month, a year, 5 years later, you look back and go, wow, now that I really get to know them, I find out they've got just as many downsides as upsides. And the thing you think was terrible in your life, a day, a week, a month, a year, 5 years later, you look back and go, well, now it's a turning point in my life. I'm glad that happened. So you can have the wisdom of the ages without the aging process by looking now and asking right questions by doing the Demartini method I explained in the breakthrough experience, or you can have the wisdom of the ages with the aging process and age. The karmic wheel, when you judge and you don't neutralize it, is the aging process. And the dharmic path, which is the path of purpose in life, which he realizes that no matter what's going on, it's actually part of a balanced act, and it's trying to get you back into equilibrium. See, our intuition, which is a homeostatic mechanism in our brain, it's trying to point out the downsides to the thing you think is up and to the upsides to when you think you're down. So if you're resenting somebody, it's trying to whisper you the upsides to calm down the resentment. And if you're infatuated, it's trying to show you the downsides. So if you meet this really guy that you're really infatuated with, your brain says too good to be true, keep your eyes open, watch out. Your intuition is trying to show you the downside so you're not gullible. You have enough skepticism to balance the gullibility. And if you're resentful and you have something that happened and your brain says, well, there's got to be a purpose to this, a meaning to this, there's got to be some reason for this. It's trying to bring them into balance so you can see that no matter what happens, it's actually got a balanced act. So anytime you have an imbalanced ratio of perceptions, you've got emotions, and emotions are causal, and they basically keep you in this regurgitating static in the brain and this noise in the brain, and you're trapped. You're in bondage to whatever you infatuate or resent. It occupies space and time in your mind. And so therefore the bondagement of this so-called karmic wheel is simply our inability to ask the right questions to balance out the equation, to have reflective awareness over deflections. When we actually ask the right question, which is I developed in the Demartini method, it's very precise questions on how to take whatever you're perceiving in an imbalanced way that's running your life, that's holding you back, which is limited beliefs. Basically, if you ask those questions and neutralize it and hold yourself accountable, which means to bring your balance sheet in balance, You hold yourself accountable and you liberate yourself from all the baggage, and you're back on your karmic, you're out of your karmic path and on your dharmic path. Your karmic wheel to the dharmic path. Instead of going around in circles, you actually get focused again. That's why I tell people to come to the breakthrough experience and learn the method and use the method, because you can weigh yourself down with baggage and be gravitationally weighed down, or you can be lightened up and inspired by balancing out the equation. It's not what happens to you in life, it's how you perceive it. And if you choose to perceive it in a way that's leaving you empty with judgment, then you're trapped. You trapped yourself. You chose to be caught in that moral hypocrisy. The things you think are terrible actually have terrific in it. It's like a yin and yang symbol. And the things you think are terrific have terribles in it. Don't be fooled by facades. Don't be fooled by one-sided perspectives. They're not the whole. The whole is a balance of opposites. You could say that the synchronicity and the synthesis of all opposites is what I call love. And when you have an imbalanced and you've got your conscious and unconscious mind split, you've got judgments and strife. That was stated by Empedocles, literally 2,500 years ago. He said there's love and strife. When you put the elements together and integrate and balance the equation, you have love. When you have an imbalanced equation, you have strife. So if you have a balanced perspective, you have a balanced physiology, a balanced psychology, and you're governed. And you see the hidden order in life. When you don't, you're in chaos. And so that karmic wheel, if you will, that's been described, that keeps regurgitating in whatever we experience, judging ourselves or others, just keeps recycling in our life, is not because it has to be there. It's not because there's some sort of punishment reward system, really. It's that we haven't loved it. And it's giving us a reminder, and it's giving us feedback to let us know what we haven't loved, so it gives an opportunity to love it. And the quality of our life is based on the quality of the questions we ask. If we ask questions that help equilibrate the mind and balance out the mind and transform the so-called karmic wheel into the dharmic path, we're freed. We're liberated. We have moksha, in a sense, satori. We have a rejuvenation of our being. And we're actually in the essence of our being instead of the existence of our becoming. We're not into personal personas and masks that we're wearing, where we're exaggerating and minimizing with imposter syndrome, but we're actually in the state of grace and love and inspiration and enthusiasm and certainty and presence, the transcendental state, which is the superconscious mind. So we can either live in the subconscious mind and run around in the wheel of the boomerang effect that they've called it in the Eastern mysticism, or you can actually get in the superconscious mind and be on the path. I'd much rather tell people on the path. That's been my mission for 51 years, teaching. That's for each of these classes I present each week, and that's basically designed to do that. So you have the capacity to ask quality questions, to equilibrate the mind, and bring yourself back into equanimity within yourself, so you're authentic, and equity between yourself and others, where you have reflective awareness. When you do, you liberate yourself from the things that preoccupy your mind and recycle around in your life and keep running your life, and the so-called karmic boomerang, if you will, and you liberate yourself and get on with your mission in life. An inspired mission is not the same as a regurgitating and recycling passions. The animal passions are all the judgments and all the emotions that are trapping us. And the inspired mission is the path that's clear and consciously full. We have mindfulness, if you will. And that's what meditation was for. That's what the Demartini method's for in the breakthrough experience. That's why I tell people to come to the breakthrough experience. If they come there, I can show them a methodical, scientific, duplicatable, transcribable, translatable, literally methodical system to help them dissolve the baggage that's holding them back and running them down and distracting them. So I just wanted to take a few moments to describe this so-called karmic boomerang, if you will, in the world, and just know that you have the capacity with the quality of the questions you ask to liberate it. So in the Demartini method of the breakthrough experience, I show you exactly what the questions are, how to do them. I let you experience it, and we do it. We dissolve stuff. You see the difference, feel the difference, experience the difference right there on the spot, and you learn how to use that for the rest of your life. And that's worth the learning, I promise you. I've been studying human behavior 51 years, and I'm certain that you have the capacity to transform your life. You don't have to be caught. You don't have to sit there and blame, well, it's because of some past life karma that I've got this thing trapping me in my life. No. Even in multi-generational epigenetics, we know that we have the capacity to change the epigenetics at any moment. We have the capacity to change the so-called karma. And that is simply by asking quality questions that equilibrate the mind and liberate us from the misinformation that we're giving ourselves. Just like out there in the mass media, there's misinformation campaigns going on in the media. There's also misinformation that we give ourselves. And then we want to be able to use objective. That's why I tell people to live by priority. When you're living by your highest priorities and living by what's most important to you, you increase the probability of having an objective view, a balanced view, and you have less of the karma. If you prioritize your life and prioritize what you're doing and what you're eating and what you're spending your money on and everything, prioritize your life, you decrease the probability of the karmic wheel and increase the probability of the dharmic path, because your highest value is an expression of your path in life, your teleological purpose, if you call it. So give yourself permission to prioritize your life. Give yourself permission to ask quality questions. Give yourself permission to live objectively, not subjectively. Prioritize your life. Come to the breakthrough experience. Let me show you how to break through the limitations that you may be imposing on yourself and being trapped by in these impulsive and instinctual cycles that you get caught in, and show you how to liberate your life. The path of inspiration is what's possible for all of us. So I just want to take a moment like that. I look forward to seeing you at the Breakthrough Experience, and have an absolutely amazing week.